You have us all to yourselves, no mother.
Uh-oh.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, my name is Raphael Sbarge.
Hi, I'm Arenberg. There'll be a test after this. We're here to just sort of say hey and to answer questions and to to hear Lee talk.
All right.
Did it so well.
Yes, safety first, everybody.
There is a mic right there. The young lady who has her hand up. So she can't bring it too far forward, so if you guys want to line up with her.
Hey, just as an opening kind of comment, salvo kind of thing, just a lot of thanks to you guys, the fans, especially the Munsters, for really, you know what, we're in an art form, and the thing about acting is, we're not doing it if someone's not watching us. So the fans are really an intrinsic part of what we do. You make our art, and obviously you make us successful when you get all Munster fanboy fangirl on us. So we certainly thank you very much.
Yay!
Yeah.
Is there someone who has a specific question? Oh, they're not.
Make our job so easy.
We have to clear our
Hey
questions.
guys.
I had to do that yesterday.
What was y'all's reaction as fans and actors to the season finale when you read it or got to watch it?
I thought it was sort of wonderful. I mean, it sort of startled me at first that they were going to, break the spell. I mean, it really, I thought, no, they're going to spin it out. And I felt the boldness of breaking the spell, and that challenge to see how was a really wonderful way to end the season, was to see how people are going to deal with the fact that they know who they are. I thought it was bold, like most of it really is. And so I thought, oh, that makes great sense. It's really surprising.
Yeah, the stuff I come on that too, just to say, is the level of, what these writers have done is continually surprise us, just when you sort of think you got it figured out. You go, whoa, we've changed all the rules. So it's, I thought it was dangerous that they did that at the end of the first season, because now we get to see, wow, magic is coming to Storybrooke. So everything that you knew is now going to be different. And it's a wild ride. Yeah.
Well, my only thing I can add to that, of course, because I think we have an egg pretty good. I was always say the same thing. But what was surprising to me is the amount of people that thought, "Whoa, is this the end of the series?" Right? And see, that's gutsy. It's absolutely right. It's a gutsy play, because now you're going, "Well, wait a minute. The curse is lifted." But you see, the curse got lifted, and we didn't go anywhere. So I leave you with that. You know what I mean? Somehow these characters are still stuck in that world. So there's more to discover. There's obviously something else going on. And honestly, we don't know what it is yet. We have no clue either.
And the wonderful thing is, all you have to do is step into an ice cream shop and have, 40 flavors to choose from. It's a similar thing with the characters. Now they have the freedom, and that's wonderful, but now they have to choose what to do, which makes for, they can really spin that out and make it very individual.
Last year, they do this thing where you have to go face the critics. They call them TCAs, and we were on stage. The cast was on stage, and the critics essentially sort of hardened, beaten up, jaded TV critics were actually. You could tell that they sort of liked it, but they didn't want to let us know if they liked it. And they were sort of saying things like, "Well, what are you going to do when the curse ends? What are you going to do?" And where can you go? Haven't you painted yourself into a corner?
Disneyland.
And I think you're at a place now where essentially, the gloves are off. They can go anywhere. Anywhere. Go ahead.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say that Dreamy is my favorite episode, as my wife. But my question.
I love you.
My question to all of you is, what was your favorite line you got to say this past season?
Mine was, "You will always do your worst. I will always do my best."
the best. You know, sort of, I don't do so many.
I mean, I don't know. I like, I need my pain. It makes me who I am. It makes me grumpy. But I also like, she goes, when Mary Margaret comes out on the roof and she goes, Leroy, don't jump. And I'm like, what? I'm not going to jump. I can hurt someone. I'm solidly built.
Hey guys. Okay, I love hanging out with you Friday night. This question is for Raphael and Tony.
Yeah, right.
We'll do it again. I'm just curious. We saw at the end of the season, Pinocchio turned it back into wood. Now obviously you have all of your memories back, and as well as far as I've heard, the memories that were built within Storybook during the curse while it was active. I don't know if you have filmed it yet, and if you have, please don't spoil it, but if you haven't, I'm interested to see or hear what you would like to see happen, or how you think it will be handled when Geppetto or Jimmy find him as Wood, and what they're going to do about it.
Gosh, I would love to tell you. Then I'd have to kill you. And it's for people, I mean, coming down to see us at the table, and they say, okay, what are the spoilers? Can you tell us? And I want to tell you, and you're so sweet when you ask. And,
I was going to ask him about
and I can't say.
Jimmy
that's
Cricket
what's
speaking
going to get you
English,
to
even
kind
though he
of
didn't
come back.
when he
But
first
what I
became
can say is that,
I'm trying
Eddie
to
and Adam, who are our bosses,
figure out what he's wears as a translator.
I mean, they can do whatever they want. It's their show. So if you go online, I think oftentimes they give some pretty decent leaks if you really want them. And you can probably find them.
Yeah, it's sort of that we could tell you, but then you'd hate us if we did. You really would. Justice. You really would.
Yeah, I firmly believe it's like, nospoiler.com, because one person might want a spoiler, but with the way, especially the oncers are kind of really on Twitter, and we're all on Twitter, you make one person happy and you ruin it for 10,000.
Yeah.
So, gotta think
It's like
about
the Olympics. Like, don't tell me that you won the gold medal. I don't watch it. Cut that out.
No, that's why we're on ABC.
Hi, this question is for Raphael. When Jiminy Cricket becomes a cricket, he speaks this unidentified cricket language to the Blue Fairy, which the Blue Fairy understands, but the rest of the time when Jiminy Cricket speaks, he speaks in English and he can communicate. And I was wondering, there's something that he wears as a cricket around his neck, and I was wondering if that is a translator of some kind.
Wow, well this I can tell you then. It's Klingon. No. They haven't explained it yet, but there is actually, they had to figure out how in the diminutive, specifically CGI cricket version of Jiminy, that they, the thing around his neck that they have not identified, and this is not a spoiler, it's just sort of, and you get the inside track, I can tell you, is it is a translator. You are 100%.
Okay. Okay.
Give that.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I love all three of your characters, and I just want to say, this last season we definitely got excellent backstories on all three of you, bringing us to where y'all are in the present. What is y'all's feelings on the duality of each of your characters being able to be in both the storybook and in Storybrooke?
You mean fairy tale land?
Yeah,
Storybook. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It was sort of, it makes great sense to, at least occupation-wise, for each of our characters to, they're given occupation, including troublemaker, for Lee.
Typecast again, Tony.
I love it. I love when we meet in Storybook and we're in jail. It's just perfect. It just makes great sense, and I love how in the Stranger episode they were able to introduce the clock through my profession as the handyman, and it was all again. It's you think about it for a second, you think these guys are really, really sort of bright, and so that's it. But again, I'm sort of faced with the
the dilemma of, his unhappiness now that, he had a sighting. He had actually contact, and now he's gone. And I'm really curious where that. We've done a little bit of it, but I'm curious where that takes us. So.
Just from the acting department, anyway, to be in a show where we get to have the range of sort of two worlds is so wonderful. And the production departments, that is, the costumes and the design, even though some of it's CGI, but a lot of it is actual practical built. And what they bring to these, it's so fun. It's just so fun to wander out into that, and the horses and and all. It's thrilling. It really is a dream job to be on the show. Not just the least of which is because the writing is so remarkable and clever. And we heard Jane talking. There was a panel yesterday, and unfortunately she's doing another panel for one of her other 14 shows. But I happen to know because they said that, for example, the whole Red Riding Hood thing, that she is actually a wolf. They kind of stumbled on that. That was something they thought, oh, wait a minute. And of course, it's just genius. It's just genius. And they keep doing that. They keep again surprising us. And I know all of us get so excited to kind of see what's coming. And there's one or two that I know that are coming that I think you're really excited about. You said the Cheshire Crane, I'm sorry.
Absolutely, I agree with all of the above. It's a real challenge to do it, because if you look at what they did with Josh's character, with the David Nolan, Josh would be so frustrated because the character's a total tool. No, admittedly, right? And yet, in the other world, it's as if the characters that are the most together in the fairy tale land are the most messed up in Storybook. And you really see that in really all of us, but specifically in Snow, in the relationship to Charming, in that David and Mary Margaret, and how messed up my guy is. We are very deliberate, and it kind of, anytime you see us in those storybooks, we're on these missions. I'm helping him throw Rumpel in jail. I'm doing all these missions with him, deliberately connected up. So one of my favorite moments of the whole season is when the curse is lifted and Josh and Ginny see each other and they have their moment. I go to Josh, I tweeted it, I go, tool belt dropped. And especially, when I did the Dreamy app, I got to play 3 characters. So the true challenge, and to arc it, and to realize that with my guy, what makes my character special to me is the fact that, yeah, he's grumpy because he's in love, but he was touched by this magic dust and you can't wash it off, right? So he's, the one redeemable thing about him is when you finally get to the core of the guy, he's a solid, true, honest guy. And the rest of it's just a cover, like a cancer, just like me, And it's true, you find out what's good about you and connecting you to these characters and try and share it, through the words of our great writers with you, our audience.
Can I just bring about this just briefly, because we were talking about this yesterday too, which is one of the things that I think that they've done so brilliantly, is that they've given each of these characters, the good, the bad, and the ugly, heroes' journeys. And really at the heart of the hero's journey is sort of a challenge they have to sort of overcome in order to then face kind of what is hopefully their own humanity, or some version of that, where you get to kind of really struggle and then come to some kind of new awareness. And that hero's journey, even with the Queen and with Rumpelstiltskin and with perhaps maybe some of the more unredeemable traits that they might have, you find yourself caring about them. You go like, oh gosh. And it's quite skillful what they've done in terms of sort of with every character we find ourselves hooked in. Anyway.
Hi. I want to know what your favorite fairy tale was when you were younger, and how being on the show has maybe changed what your favorite was, or how your perception of your favorite fairy tale has changed.
Dude, I was too macho to be in a fairy tale. I'm serious, I was definitely a Pirate of the Caribbean. I admit it. But what the interesting thing is, there's that Once Upon a Time fairy tale book that came out, and I read some of these stories to my 5-year-old, And you go into some of these stories, you read the real story of Hansel and Gretel. That is a dark, twisted, messed up story, man. And I get it. I mean, these are morality tales, right? These are teaching Red Riding Hood. You're teaching your daughter to not be promiscuous back in the day. And how do we do it? We parable this big bad wolf thing. So it's interesting because it's brought me a newfound respect, and actually I give fairy tales credit for being a lot more ballsy than I ever thought they were.
One of my favorites is Jack and the Beanstalk. And I believe this is now public, so I can say this. I believe it's coming, so you'll be saying something. So, and that was, someone had asked me this last year before I even knew that was coming, but it was coming. And again, I think the sky's the limit in terms of where they're going to go. I think I can easily say now that they've got a very wide canvas, and they're not going to just use the old European Grimm fairy tales. I know that they're going outside that and really sort of exploring, fairy tales from other cultures and going to all sorts of different kinds of source material. So lots ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. I really didn't do much in the way of fairy tales growing up. I don't really remember. I watched all of the Disney ones on Disney Hour, but none of them really struck me. But because I was more interested in other things. I mean, I dreamed and had other sort of interests, sports and doing stuff. But the one thing about the Pinocchio tale that's sort of fascinating is it really wasn't in the sort of Grimm tales. It sort of came in the 19th century Italy in a time of sort of turmoil, and it had to do with poverty, and it had to do with working hard, going to school, again, obey a kind of obedience that will set you apart so you don't end up, the big curse is he ends up a beast of burden, he ends up a donkey. You'll end up sort of being someone else's creature for the rest of your life. And that, so I think there was that sense of it. And again, it sort of feeds into the immigrant tale, which is the parent always says, great, I will suffer so that you can be something else. And that's the price. And so it made great sense. But I love, I love the Bruno Bethlehem uses of enchantment and all of that. I agree with Lee too about these. All of these have sort of wisdoms and very hard lessons. They're not sweet. They're really not sweet at all, and that's cool. I think it's good.
All right. So for each of your very good aligned, maybe heroic characters, how does having more than one villain and sort of the interplay between villains affect how the dynamic of the cast is and how the characters interact with each other?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Let's see. How much time you got? Let's see. What they've done is create a really dynamic world, and they have given, you've got the evil queen who's got all this power, and she's the mayor, but then you've got Rumpelstiltskin who seems to sort of have control over her, and always sort of seemed to have the upper hand, but even though he's sort of more in the shadows, and there's some other new characters that are coming that are also going to sort of rock the boat in a whole other kind of way. So it's, I think, we live, it's a very dynamic world that we get to live in, and I think that makes it sort of exciting. Frankly, from the acting, from an acting point of view, the evil characters are sometimes really the most fun to play. Because they, especially when you have something like this, well, there you go, you address that. Because you can have sort of a wound, as it were, that's driving you forward to kind of do these evil things. We never know. The interesting thing about how this works is, and maybe some people don't really know the actual sort of math of this, but we get the script sometimes 4 or 5 days before they give it to everyone else. So the writers are baking it, cooking it for a long time, and they arc out the whole series, and then they do sort of sections of it, and then they sort of disseminate the script, and you get the script, and then you're up to speed. Now, we're up to speed a few months before you, but we aren't a part of really conceiving where it's going. But we get very excited when we sort of get the new script, because we're all fans of the show. We can't wait to rip them open and see kind of what's going to happen next.
Hi, my question is, as actors, since you've had the experience of living in the fairy tale world as well as living in the modern world with your characters, if you were given the choice, which would you go to? Would you go to the simplistic, idealized version of the fairy tale world, or would you stay in the modern world with all the modern appliances and the technology, but with the complications that go with it?
Oh, thanks.
No question. I'm going back to Fantasyland.
Yeah, I'm going to Fantasyland too.
Me too.
Well, you know what? It's actually one of my favorite lines in the pilot. It's a really insidious line. She goes right when the vortex is happening, the curse is happening. Charming's dead on the ground, the baby's gone, and Regina's, well, the evil queen, is about to curse. The curse is coming, right? And Snow's like, "Where are we going?" And she's going to a horrible, horrible place in this modern day America. It's a pretty subversive comment, you know what I mean, if you think about it, that the modern world is a tough, tough world, you know, and so I always got a kick on that. So yeah, we're going back to Storybook. You know, fairy tale land, here we come.
Hello, my question is for the three of you. If you could be one other character on the show, who would you be and why?
I do Rumble because he's bad.
I think I want to be the evil queen. I don't know how I look in the outfits, but I really don't like wearing
Is there something you want to tell us, Raphael?
But what a great part. Yeah.
I think I'd like to be Henry to have all those beautiful women fawning. Really, I Rumble, without question,
Yeah.
Rumble, because, it's just the coolest sort of deal with him. So.
Except maybe for the makeup, that would be a tough one.
It's like 2 or 3 hours makeup in and at least an hour out. And then he's got the contacts that he wears as well, which are put on right before he shoots, which are uncomfortable, I imagine.
Hi. What is your, for all three of you, what is your favorite, twist on the story that we know? Like Red Riding is the wolf or Grumpy used to be dreaming. What's your favorite?
Fierceness-wise, for me, it's the Red Riding Hood. Humor-wise, I just have to go with the birth of Grumpy. How do you see that? And
where do those eggs come from?
And that there are so many of them.
What came first, Grumpy or the egg?
I'm going to guarantee Grumpy. I think the magical thing too is that, and we said this yesterday, but for me, I get, of course, when we're actors, we get turned on by our own storyline, but it's really easy to look at these other tremendous actors and really respect what they get to do. I'm a big fan of what Sebastian got to do in that Mad Hatter, terrific act. Skin deep, dynamite, right? That whole thing with him and his crazy parents, you know what I mean? That relationship of we're just going to exploit our own kid, you know what I mean? And he's going to kind of go along in the family profession, and right? It's outrageous stuff that goes down, turning them into the puppets, you know? So the great thing is you can actually watch the other guys work, and it's like being on a team. It really is a team what we do. We are ensemble players. And whenever we're lucky enough to get on the screen together in a scene, some of the most exciting stuff is it's without the lines. It's the way we look at each other. We're trying to deal with each other. And you'll see some of that without giving it away, upcoming, And that to me is some of the most exciting stuff, is just jamming with these dudes. It's terrific stuff. It's thrilling for me.
Since the show has become so popular and you have so many people joining the cast in the next season, who would be you guys' ideal actor to join, and what character would you like them to play?
Meryl Streep. Sorry, did I actually say that out loud? I understand that they... Let me answer this way. I think when they first decided about the show being kind of a Disney show, I said some of this yesterday, but when it was a Disney show on ABC with fairy tales, I I think the show could have, in lesser hands, been done really poorly. Let's just say that. And I think it could have gotten very sweet and kind of saccharine, potentially. And they stayed away from that. The show is, and Jane has said this, it has that remarkable combination of being sort of a big, ambitious show, and also it's become this huge hit. And it's also done something which not all American shows do, is it travels well, meaning that it actually is playing well in other countries. So my Twitter tells me. And from that point of view, what they will do as this grows and as the stories really grow is it will attract even a higher and higher level of actor. I mean, Barbara Hershey's on the show. You know, she's what an incredible actress. And Brad Dourif, obviously, who's on the show. I mean, these are really A-list actors. And, you know, again, as Lee was saying a moment ago, to get a chance to play with people like that is, you know, it's like going to play tennis with someone who's just so much better than you, and you learn so much from, you know, being on the court with them. I mean, it's thrilling. And I'm a huge Robert Carlyle fan.
Oh, yeah.
You know? This guy is a really, really exquisite actor, and it's so fun to play with him. You know, what he brings, the passion and the soul that he brings to the scene. So I would imagine as the show continues to go on, is that you'll probably see all sorts of actors, really fine actors who want to be on the show. And I think that list will probably grow. So yeah, stay tuned on that.
Tony, many years ago in Los Angeles, were you in a show called Cloud 9?
No. I know what you're talking about, though. There's a gentleman we have, his name is Don Amendola. He's got an extra I in his name. But thank you, he was wonderful. I just saw him a couple weeks ago.
Tony is a great theater actor, by the way, and really has an amazing
All of us.
Yeah, we all come from the stage. We all come from the stage. And although I like to say, this is interesting because people ask me like what I prefer, and I definitely prefer film and TV. And the reason I prefer film and TV is I like to catch lightning in a bottle. And I also like to do new things. And so the challenge of film and TV is you do something new every day. Challenge of the theater is to rehearse it and make it look like it's happening for the first time. But when you're in a long run of a show, after 6 or 8 months, I mean, you pretty much tried it and you sort of turn into a robot. So that is more the challenge of that, where you have to stay fresh and stay in the moment, right? But for whatever reason, I'm seduced by the big screen and the little screen.
Yeah, and you know, there's so many people that come through, particularly in, you know, in sci-fi and the fantasy genre. Raphael and myself belong to a company called the Antaeus Company. Lee, for many years, was part of the actors group. Terrific. The two people that play Raphael's parents, again, one of them, Harry Groner, who played his father, is in the same company. Carolyn Hennessy, again, is...
And I actually got my professional start in a play Mark Taper Forum that Harry was in. So it's weird. This is the thing about actors. It's a big circle. So the community, the longer you stay in the game, the more people you work with and the more chance for that circle just to keep going. And that's kind of one of the exciting things. You never know who might be in the mix with you. And, you know, we're lucky we're all friends. And then it shows on the screen. We hang out, you know, together off screen. And therefore it translates to what you see on the screen. I think it makes a big difference when you actually like the people you work with.
This is one of those shows that is very heavily costume driven. Has there been a costume that's come on set that you've just gone, wow, that's really going to make that storyline feel real?
Let me speak to this just because my mother is actually a costume designer, and I grew up backstage. She's a theatrical costume designer. Our costume designer is spectacular. And I can say he was just nominated for an Emmy, which is really, really thrilling. There are 3 departments that got Emmy noms, which is our makeup, visual effects, and the costumes. He does an unusual thing, and apparently this is, these are sort of the backstories you don't know. There were a lot of designers, I guess, that turned down the show because they said, well, no, it's way too difficult. it's way too big. You know, let's get, 50 dwarves ready for the next scene. I mean, that's a lot of work. And he, is both ingenious in terms of his organizational skills, as well as then also knowing how to make it and sketch it. He'll sketch it out, and he's got a team of people that literally, sew it, cut it, put it together, beat it. Some of the stuff they've done with the Evil Queen, when you see it up close, is, I mean, there was this episode, the Cinderella episode, which I liked so much, but I have to say is that I wish you could have seen some of those costumes up close. Maybe one day they'll have them on a, they'll travel them so you can actually touch them, but the beating and the detail is just exquisite. So thanks for asking that question. I think he's really he's a hero of mine on the show for sure. The work he does.
And the nicest collaborative sort of guy, you can tell him your ideas, you're very comfortable. There's some very, very good designers who, you might as well be a mannequin. It's pretty much going to be, doesn't matter if it fit well, if you're uncomfortable, if it fits well, they have no concern, and he's complete opposite.
The women are hot.
Yeah, should have been my line. Jesus, still no material.
Hi, my question is mainly for Lee. I love all of you guys on Once Upon a Time, but I've been a big fan of Lee's ever since your days on Seinfeld.
Thank you.
And even though you're only in just a few episodes, you're so memorable. And was just wondering if you might give us a little line.
A little line from Seinfeld? Well, I could go, oh, my thumbs. But I'll tell you something, what's great, why that resonates, why you could do 2 appearances on a show like that, and you still remember me 20 years later? Because it was great writing. And again, that's also all the shows, any job I've ever done that really resonates, the Pirates, the Once, the Seinfelds, to a certain extent, the Star Treks, damn good writing. And, make no mistake, they are we're just the straw that gets stirred into that fantastic drink of their creativity. And, I guess Shakespeare said it best, the play's the thing, right? And as actors, it doesn't really matter, in my mind, what you say, it's only how you say it. But as you give the respect to the material, that really is the thing that you remember. The great lines, you're so phony, or whatever it is. That comes out of the mind of a great writer. And then the actor just takes it and he just kind of puts his stink on it.
Let me just follow that up and say that Lee is also somewhat underplaying what he does too, because I think he's so spectacular on the show. And we do depend on great writing, and it is the life force, that someone like Lee brings to it that really defines it and makes it memorable. So,
and I also like to think, let me tell you this is what I say about acting. They pay me for the waiting on the set. The acting I always do for free. You see? That's my job. That's my passion. That's my art. Okay, my turn. And I think a lot of us, we're all the same way, man. We just want the ball. So when you have a whole cast of actors that are, enjoying what they do and have passion for it, and no one's ever crabby having to go to work on our show. Serious. We have a good time there. And that makes the work a heck of a lot of fun, Because right before we were taping, we might be on the cell phone talking to someone, and they're rolling, and everyone's cracking up at the dude. And then all of a sudden, that one moment, boom, everyone locks in, Everyone. It's like, and then it's cut, it's like, oh my God, that joke was really funny, And it's that, take the work seriously and not yourself. And we have a whole company of actors that try and do that.
After they killed Sheriff Graham, did any of you have a desire?
It's so sad to hear that again. I forgot about that. I was feeling good there for a moment.
We love Jim.
Go ahead.
Doesn't bring us down.
Were you ever tempted to start a script at the back to see if you survived the episode?
At the back, just to see if you
made it.
If you were killed or not.
Yeah, I had a friend who was on The Sopranos who said she would always read it like this. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I know Jamie is such a dear guy, and he's so ugly, but he's so sweet. No, he knew going in that that's where he was headed. I know that they had planned to kind of really establish the character, and then kill the character, squeeze his heart.
Yeah.
And we were sad about it. We were all really sad about it because he's a great guy. And you know, at the end of the day, obviously he was back in the finale. You know, obviously in this world, anything can happen. I don't think that there's a. I'm not telling tales here. Just to say is that I think he could very well come back. We like him so much. He's a great guy. So. I feel your pain.
He's got a wonderful dialect. I just love it.
He's doing a great show, by the way, with the BBC, which a really wonderful miniseries, which because I saw him, and it should be out soon if you're a fan of his. I know that you'll be able to catch that.
What is it called?
Yeah. I can't remember, but I'm sure you can Google it.
Hi. If you consider that fairy tales and folk tales are retold stories, and that's why they persist, what ultra-modern retold stories, so the ones that we have seen and grown up with that were new when we were kids, would you like to see incorporated into Once Upon a Time?
Give me a lightsaber. But again, all those, the whole thing we're talking about, the hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell thing, there's only so many dramatic stories anyway. I've heard, 33, whatever it is, kind of possibilities. So every time you're kind of taking from something old and kind of reinventing the wheel. There is no old, new material in terms of the way you tell a story. In where I study acting, my teacher goes, there's only 2 scenes. There's only power scenes and seduction scenes. That's it. So you kind of figure out what you're doing. Are you going for power? Are you trying to seduce? Are you trying to be seduced? Or is it a power struggle? So there's ways of kind of if you're a mathematician, of reducing it to the lowest common denominator in all source material. So I think the key thing, and I know when I try and do some writing, is keep it simple, right? Don't get too complicated. Elmore Leonard says, about writing, he says, people, when you read a book, there's whole stuff that they skip. So Elmore Leonard just doesn't write that stuff, okay? And that I think that has a lot to do with it. We're trying to tell our stories in this series in 42 minutes. So the scripts come in a lot longer than that, and we're always getting edited down. So you never know exactly what moment's going to be the one they keep. So you got to be on your game and try and get all your moments in the show. And I think that makes it really exciting because everyone's like, oh God, maybe I'll lose that scene. You never know. Because it's a time issue. It doesn't matter about performance. It just matters if they only need 42 minutes of TV.
There were some episodes that came in, I know this because I was on the receiving end of this, one was 22 minutes long. So you figure it's almost an entire additional episode. They actually talked about trying to do an hour-and-a-half episode and couldn't get permission with the network, but they have made cuts to storylines and characters or episodes that I was in that I think are on the DVD. I haven't seen yet, but that they that they cut them out because it just wasn't time. So I guess one of the I can sort of say and perhaps sort of sell you as it were the DVD is that there's material there that they put back because they don't have the time constraints of. All those commercials that we love so much. Those, of course, are what finance the show, but they do make it a tight 43 minutes.
I mean, a lot of times the cuts will come even in a speech. So it's sometimes hard to watch yourself do it on the TV because you know what you actually did and you're trying to find those moments. And you're like, that beat's coming in, they squish it, it's all packed in. And there's not a lot of air in the show, so whenever you get a chance to breathe, part of that's built in a way to create the tension in the story, but at the same time, a lot of it's just a matter that they write so much for it.
One of our directors was going off to do a cable show, and he said, God, I got a whole 20 minutes that I get to film. I don't have to worry about it. I can take time. Because cable shows are straight through 60 minutes or 59. But he was so excited because he could actually tell the story with lingering moments and sort of maybe, people actually had a thought. You didn't have to keep cutting it, which is sometimes what we have to do on our show.
And you sort of have to know where you sit placement-wise too. You know, very often the scripts there's an A story and a B story, and it's fine. So it doesn't hurt to have an awareness of that. And although you could, you know, widen your scene, fill it with all of this other stuff that's very, very interesting. If you read the script carefully, you know, okay, yeah, this needs to be compact because it's not going to be there. They might even let you do it. It's gone, you know. And you know, as they were saying, it is surprising sometimes. Think, oh no, they didn't. Oh, they cut that section, but then this won't make sense because I was you know. But of course it does. It does, and you know, we get attached to stuff sometimes.
I mean, we are actors. We are, you know, we're a little crazy.
Go ahead.
With such iconic stories and iconic characters in those stories that everyone knows and generations have grown up with and know a certain way, how did it feel to take on these characters, and were you ever nervous of how they'd be perceived in a slightly new light?
You know, for me, it was not really an issue because I knew when they cast me that I couldn't do, you know, the classic Geppetto. It just wasn't me. And actually, the classic Geppetto is supposed to be actually blonde, you know, graying blonde hair, and it's sort of like a polenta head. Yes, you know. I mean, that's the whole thing in Italy. And I thought, oh great, well I can't do that, so there's no way of copying anything. So I was liberated by it. And as actually the woman who asked the question yesterday, who was, you know, upset at Geppetto's behavior, came and we spoke today, and she apologized. I found that for our conversation. Of course, you know, I just laughed because there was nothing there. I love the fact that they made him tough. So I realized in the writing that I could take it wherever. And all you ask for as an actor, even oddly enough in a fairy book character, is a kind of humanity, which means, you know, a kind of a dark and light. It's just hard to play the same color all the time. And that's what makes Lana so effective. It would be excruciatingly boring for Lana to have to play the bad queen all the time until you find out where she's coming from. And that's what makes it really sort of wonderfully deep. So.
In answer to your question, yes, at the top, when when you realize you're Jiminy Cricket and you're essentially everyone's sort of idea of a conscience and a beloved character, you know, one of the probably 3 or 4 major Disney characters. I went on Wikipedia and you know, I did research and it's, you know, talked about how it was originally in the book, you know, the little book, and he was a very peripheral character. And then when Walt Disney did the screenplay, they brought the character and they sort of made the character much bigger. And then at the very end they said, and soon to be seen once upon a time, portrayed by Raphael Sbarge. I went, oh no. I didn't want to read that. You know, because then you sort of feel, well, to use a phrase, dwarfed by essentially the enormity of it. But, you know, look, again, what they've done is they've carved out their own vision of these characters. And again, they've done so with such integrity. And just to speak to the very specific journey of Jiminy, I mean, you know, the evolution of a conscience, meaning knowing right from wrong, could so easily be treacly, I want to say, or you know, do it because I said so or something. And the fact that it was ultimately born of one of the really sad stories that we did last year. I mean, just that he really suffered and still lives with this huge shadow of kind of having done this thing wrong, which came back in our episode and will be coming back again next season. You know, some of these kind of sense of kind of like his knowing right from wrong came from having done wrong and then trying to then really make it right. Again, because they've carved something out, which is, I don't know, again, filled with humanity and quite touching, it gives us, anyway, in the playing of it, something to hold on to, and it doesn't feel like, I didn't feel like quite such the target. You know, I felt like I could sort of go to battle with something hard.
No, I wasn't scared of it. But I've done it before with pirates, you know, so I'd already encountered this thing. And one of the things that I'm most concerned about in playing a character that everyone already loves is that at least let's start it out where we know these guys are writing stuff that you know already about Grumpy to be true. His pal, he lives with these dwarves, they're miners. All the truths are essential truths to the Disney mythos of this character, right? I mean, this was a Walt creation anyway. He made up these names. They didn't have names, I guess, before. He created it. So in essence, it's like, look, I looked at it as an opportunity. You know, one man's scary challenge is another man's opportunity. I choose to always look at it as an opportunity. You know, I like this game. There's a baseball. I like to play a lot of sports, right? And I use this analogy about acting. It's like when if you're a baseball player in the Dominican Republic, right? You're a free swinger. Why do you swing at a ball above your head or below your knees? It's definitely a ball because you can't walk off the island. The only way you're getting to the big leagues is to learn how to crush that ball. You ain't gonna get picked up if you're just like a no-hit, like to walk second baseman. Those kids know how to rip the ball, and that's my attitude about this game. Just don't mistake my kindness for weakness, and you won't have a problem with me. But if you think you're gonna run me over, I'm gonna smack you down. and obviously, I am grumpy, so. Yeah.
Out of all of the things that got cut, which scenes or bits of dialogue upset you the most that it got cut?
Gee whiz, let's see. There were some scenes with, and again, I haven't seen the DVD, so I don't know. I think they're back. But there were some scenes. There were some really cool Jiminy CGI scenes that I believe they put back in the assault of the castle towards the end. And there were some wonderful scenes with the Prince Charming character in Storybrooke, where we were talking about his love life in a cafe, which again I believe they put back. And then there are, you know, it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting thing. What happens is they're always writing and then rewriting. So they send you up sometimes the first, which is probably then for them the 10th draft, and this is the draft they make public to the actors. And you read that, and then invariably they send you rewrites. And as Lee was saying, sometimes even in the rewrites, they're cutting the speeches down. So the first one you get, wow, what a great scene! And then by the time you get the shitty draft, it's like, hey, how you doing? Good, all right. I'm exaggerating.
But also, you know what? I mean, the thing is, if you take that stuff personally, I mean, it makes for a bad day. So it happens to all of us.
It does.
It happens to every person in the cast. So, I mean, it's best in this business to never get too high or too low. Try and stay in the middle. Because if you start believing all the good stuff, you're going to have to start believing the bad stuff.
And you just keep sort of connecting, as Lee says, with what's at hand, you know, and then make what you have work and make your moments count. And sometimes we've had some jokes on the set sometimes where we've gone to the director and said, now, do we need to talk really fast in the scene? Otherwise it's going to end up in the just let us know. She says, no, this is but, you know, again, it's a big show. There are I mean, we have a unit, which is the majority of the crew. Then they have a B, what they call a B crew, and then they even have a C crew. We shoot this in 8 days. Then there's a 9th day, which is sort of a they call a second unit day, which sometimes you do some of your biggest stuff on that second unit day. And then they have you know, all sorts of stuff they do in post, and it's so ambitious. And you know, I think that they really wanted to launch it well, so they threw everything at it, and that's why also they overrode clearly. But I clearly they're doing something right. I mean, they've got, you know, with everything they're doing in post and all the technology and all the sort of the visual effects they've got going, they're really they've been able to really craft a great world. So we got 10 minutes. We just got the sign in the back.
Do they have a big hook like the Comedy Store here?
I had one scene that I did regret that it got cut, and it was in the episode where Henry and yourself were in the mine, you know, lost in the mine, and there was a sequence where Pongo, the dog, the Dalmatian, runs into the pit. And I, you know, the queen says, get that dog, otherwise I'm gonna, you know. So I sort of run down the side of the thing, ad-libbing all in Italian, you know, this, I'm all in. He's going crazy. We did it about 6 times, and that was great fun. You know, trying to come here, she's gonna, you know, and I don't know, there was something really great fun, and of course there wasn't time for it. And I thought, wait a minute, I ran down the side of that thing 6 times. Use that. I'm thinking,
yeah, where did the booze come from at the end of that scene? Everyone's like partying. You guys come from that
well,
side.
you know, and that's an interesting. If you notice the booze at the end of that scene, that's really fascinating to me. Is that no one really wanted to drink. I thought. I believe I could be the only one who took an actual drink, and I thought, sure, maybe I'll take a drink. Maybe he has a drinking problem. That would make sense. You know, you're trying to sort of crank up a drinking problem. Sure, you know, it should be sort of wine on the. Anyway,
Chianti bottle.
Yeah.
My question is for everybody on the panel. What drew your interest to being a part of the Once Upon a Time series? I mean, was it something personal that when you went in, you said, did you know in advance what role you were going to try out for, or was this something, I mean, I just was curious about what drew your interest into becoming.
They wanted us, and they were going to pay us.
You know, I have a story that I tell sometimes, which is my son is just turned 8, but when he was at a new preschool, I dropped him off one day, and his teacher said to him, apparently, Django, your dad looks familiar. What does he do? And he thought for a second. He said, he auditions. So, you know, the fact of the matter is that we as actors, we are out there all the time. You know, we have this extraordinary privilege to be sitting here with you now and to be on this incredible show. And we are also always out there just looking for more work. And you don't realize that when you say, hey, my gosh, they're in this successful. We're always, you know, and all of us are always, you know, if you've got this job, you're looking for your next.
Yeah, I mean, people ask you, like, what's your favorite role, Lee? I go, yeah, my next one. And I'm dead serious, you're only as good as your next role as an actor. You know, and that's the challenge of coming to do these kind of shows with you guys. We love meeting the fans, but, you know, it gets a little old when you're talking about something you did 25 years ago. And the real thrilling thing for all of us is that we're, quote, working actors. And that, I think, is the ultimate thing they could ever say about you, is that you had a 50-year or a 40-year, or in our cases, I think we're all going pushing 30 or longer as professionals.
And the fact of the matter is that all of us, have gone through periods where, you know, you just can't get arrested. Like, you just kind of go, do I smell?
Yeah.
You know, you're doing exactly the same thing, and you don't, you know, your swing's off. You know, you can't get on base. You know, insert metaphor here, but essentially, you don't know why, and then you just keep going, and hopefully you reconnect. You know, a long career invariably involves, you know, huge sort of valleys along with the mountains. This is a highlight for me. I can tell you is that this is really one of the for as long as this lasts. You know, and we all know that all shows end eventually. But for as long as this lasts, this is an incredible experience, and I am truly grateful to be part of it.
You know, sometimes you give us much more credit than we deserve. You know, because to use the same metaphor, we can only swing at what's being pitched to us. You know, and if your batting average is 300, that's pretty darn good. I mean, that's pretty amazing. But and as you know, Lee and Raphael was saying, you know, it's a very schizophrenic existence. You know, because you're sort of up here and you're doing this and everything makes sense and it's so easy, and then all of a sudden you're sort of down here. And it's nice to be around. I think it's hardest when you're first starting and that happens. You know, you go from 10 weeks on a film to all of a sudden you're doing a 2-day guest spot or a 1-day guest spot. And you know, and just this up and down, and then you get on a show that runs 10 years, and then you're in pilots that don't happen at all. You know, they just go to pilot, they're not even seen. So it's all just part of the game, and the more you can just stay focused on trying to do your work, it works itself out. It balances out too.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta reiterate, it's like, just don't, take the work seriously, not yourself. We're actors, guys. Warren Buffett, this is my quote, now you've probably heard it already a couple times at this convention. Hey, Mr. Buffett, so great to meet you. Why? I'm not a teacher or a nurse. And honestly, let's realize that, the history of being an actor, after the Greeks, when we were high priests and our plays were sacred rituals of the society, we were vilified because it was in competition with the clerics. So the clerics made us into whatever. We were no dogs or actors allowed for over 1,000 years. Only plays we could do were these morality pageant plays, and we couldn't stay in the town. We traveled from town to town. But we, as actors, are connected to that. What we do is, it connects us to people that did this 3,000 years ago. I mean, that's what I feel. And I think that's the magic of it, is that we do something that's so ephemeral, it's so thrilling, that when we get it right, it makes you tingle. You know what? And let me be honest, I like to make you tingle.
Somehow I knew that.
You should have stole that. You should have stole that.
There's two things that Lee was talking about. There's a great description of acting that's called sculpture in ice. But with film and television, actually, you get to capture, and that's a wonderful thing. That's one of the differences. But the other thing, getting back to the whole Greek thing, that when there was sort of a religious essence to it, or I think it still exists in a strange kind of way that we are oddly your surrogates. We are oddly, your sense of adventures, your mental adventures, your hopes, your dreams, your fears are all oddly enough, we're honored enough to have to play those out. And it's a strange relationship that exists. And that's why I think, oddly, there's a primal attraction to us, a feeling of closeness, even though you may not know us. And I can sense that sometimes, you feel like that we've played something out for you. And the other side works. I mean, people sometimes are like, you just rub them wrong. And so it's sort of a really interesting, the surrogate nature of taking these adventures is really sort of fascinating.
I mean, to get the jobs, to make an impact on you, we have to go to places that are not necessarily comfortable. And we go there frequently, and we go there on a repeated basis. And our abilities to kind of expose those wounds and expose the nerves and expose those raw emotions is really what draws you into us, right? And then you feel like you've shared with us some of our most intimate moments, me falling in love, or a father dealing with his son, or a son dealing with his parents. And those issues, those big issues, is what drama has always been about. And so exactly right, to be connected to the history of it, to be able to connect with you guys and have this rare connection is what is the magic of our art. And it comes down to someone watching someone else interpret these feelings. And that's why we always owe you guys a huge debt of gratitude. And any actor that you meet that acts like an ass, let me know who they are, and I'll straighten them out. Just trust me, when I'm going to charge $85 for an autograph, I'll let you look me in the eye.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you.